Hey kids, it's Mr. Broviak. It's Friday, so hopefully you've recovered well enough from everything and realize that I will be back coming up on Monday, so you will get to see me here soon enough. You do have another day of The Outsiders without me. I will not be reading along with you today, but I will be picking up and reading along with you guys next week. But there is a number of things I wanted to share with you today to at least try and help you out a little bit over everything that we are doing. So, once again, hopefully camp went well. I figured I'd go ahead and put that up there again in case some of you guys missed it yesterday, and so that you remember the fact that is where I am today. I am with the Globetrotters and the other half of the Stars, heading back your way soon. I'll be coming back here around 2 o'clock today, so you might see me in the hallways at the end of the school day. If you see me running around, wave and say hi. Otherwise, you'll see me on Monday when we have time for our quiz and stuff like that. And then once again, speaking of Monday, our myth test corrections are due that day. So if you are wanting to do it, I figure I'd give you one last reminder to make sure you go and print those off from my website and make sure you have your original one, and then you'll get a chance to correct them, and each corrected one gets you a point back. And from those, any ones you skipped have to be corrected before you get any points back. So make sure you do that. Make sure you did grab your Outsiders book. If you did not, then you should probably go up there now. Hopefully the sub will be nice to you. If not, then I'll get to torture you later, and I'll get the list of all the kids who made the poor choices of not grabbing their book, even though you should know it by now. And then if you don't know your book number for some odd reason, you can probably ask the other kids in class to figure out which one belongs to you, because they just go in alphabetical order. So there's probably only a handful of books sitting up there, so it shouldn't be too hard to figure out. I'll try to have some faith in you in this one. So you read a little bit yesterday, going through the end of Chapter 2. So I wanted to touch on a couple things that popped up in Chapter 2 to help explain them a little bit. So I figure I'll take a look at that now and let you guys do some reading and then talk about the homework that we have coming up due that's connected to the quiz on Monday. So we left off with me talking about the gas jockeys. We find out that Soda Pop is a gas jockey. Same thing, his best friend Steve is a gas jockey. And I think we find out here that Dally is also a gas jockey. For a lot of the kids that didn't have any great skills, this was a way for them to make money. So they talked about quite a few of the greasers being gas jockeys. They work at the gas stations and stuff like that. And then they do mention the Blue Mustang. The Blue Mustang is different than the Red Corvair, which was at the beginning of the book, which happened to be a bunch of just random socias. The Blue Mustang is the one that has the boyfriends for both Marcia and Cherry, Bob and Randy. It's the one that follows Two-Bit and Johnny and Ponyboy home on their way from the movie theater, and this is when they pop out and chase them and stuff like that, and so that has that big throwdown. The Blue Mustang is going to show up a couple different times in the book, so I figure I'd go ahead and give you an idea of what the Blue Mustang looks like, because it plays a big role throughout the whole thing. Also, when Bob and Randy confront Ponyboy and Two-Bit and Johnny, they talk about having a Beatles haircut, and they sort of make fun of a bunch of them for that one. If you're unsure of what the Beatles haircut was, the Socias had really short buzzed hair, probably a bit longer than mine. But the Beatles haircut was where you had sort of this shaggy haircut where it hung down low. As silly as it might look, it's fairly popular now. I'm sure if you look around the room, we probably have at least 2 boys in the room who probably have something close to the Beatles haircut, where it's the shaggy hanging down thing. But at the time, the Beatles were sort of the first people to popularize that idea. So they talk about them having this Beatles haircut. This is sort of what the cool socias were starting to wear. But it was an easy way for the greasers to mock them and make fun of them for it. And then when they get ready to get into the fight between Randy and Bob and the other socias and the greasers there, they talk about breaking the bottle, and they sort of smash it against the ground. And that's when Cherry has to step in between the two of them. If you've not gotten to that part, it's coming up pretty soon because it's here in Chapter 2. This is once again the broken bottle they're talking about. So they're going to use broken bottles a number of times in the book for their fights and for making poor choices, as it probably shouldn't be too shocking. Now, as you get further into the book, towards the end of Chapter 3, there's going to be a scene that takes place in the park. And I can't talk about this yet if you've not been there. And if you have gotten there, don't say anything about it yet. This is one of those big turning points. But in Chapter 3, they're going to talk about the socias and an event that happens at a water fountain. When they talk about a water fountain, they are not referring to like the ones we have in our school hallways. They're talking about the big water fountains like these. They talk about a character getting in in the water fountain. So when they talk about them being able to get in the water fountain and the fact that it's full of water, this is what they're referring to. They put a character into the water. So not like the ones that we have in the hallways, because that'd be kind of ridiculous, but something along these lines, and that plays a really big role in the book. And then we're going to end up talking about what happens with the water fountain and what happens with the Socs and the greasers that they encounter and stuff like that, because it's going to end up changing everything in the book from there on out. Also, they're going to refer to the fact that I believe it is Johnny who ends up going around in a blue jeans jacket, although it might be Pony Boy. He ends up wearing a blue jeans jacket. If you don't know what a jeans jacket is, actually I'm almost positive it's Pony Boy, because it's going to show up in a scene in a church later on and it saves his life. And so this is what they're talking about with the jeans jacket, where it has the same material that you have for blue jeans is up here. Some people still wear them because they're especially cool, and so this is the jeans jacket that he's referring to, that he ends up wearing. And then aside from the jeans jacket, there's a scene coming up where Pony Boy and Johnny start talking about a couple of different musics and the groups and who likes what. And they meet up with Dally at a friend's house who's listening to Hank Williams, and they make fun of him for listening to Hank Williams. They say it's twangy cowboy music. This is Hank Williams, which was pretty much twangy cowboy music. If you have that magical iPad device in front of you, you're more than welcome to go to YouTube and listen to some Hank Williams. It'll definitely give you an idea of what it's going to listen to. Now, Hank Williams has a son named Hank Williams Jr., who also does country music, but Hank Williams Jr. is best known for doing the Monday Night Football theme song. He's the guy with the long hair and sunglasses who does all the screaming and talks about Monday Night Football and playing football and stuff like that. That's Hank Williams Jr., who is this dude's son, who does do country music, but does more country music rock. Hank Williams was all about twangy, riding on my donkey, and you gotta love your girl, and stuff like that. Trust me, listen to some of it, and you'll be fascinated. Then they also talk about the Socs, who all like the Beatles, and the greasers make fun of the Beatles for listening, or make fun of the Socs for listening to them, and the greasers like, that's not real music. It is real music. The Beatles are awesome. If you've never listened to the Beatles, one, shame on you. Two, once again, you have this iPad device in front of you. Find a way to listen to Beatles. There's got to be something on YouTube or the internet that'll help you out, but this is the Soc music they talk about. The greasers refuse to listen to the Beatles, and they have other music that they choose to listen to, which would be Elvis Presley. And they think Elvis Presley is the best thing in the entire world. So they talk about listening to him, especially like Jailhouse Rock and stuff like that. So once again, if you've not listened to Elvis Presley, take a moment, use that iPadical device, listen to some of it. Now, don't do it without headphones on. But if you want to try and take a little trip down it and listen to some of those, take a little trip, listen to them, and get a little connection to it. But the greasers are big into Elvis Presley. Now, that's most of what's going to happen in the book. We're going to talk about what happens through Chapter 4, because they're going to end up running away, and there's a big scene that happens, and we're going to talk about what happens at the end of Chapter 3, and then what happens with the greasers throughout Chapter 4. If you read past Chapter 4, big things happen. So once you go past Chapter 4, and some of you are going to want to do that, because those of you who don't hate reading, if you go past it, you cannot speak anything about it. Nothing but secrets. Because if you thought what happened in Chapter 3 is big, then what happens in Chapter 4 dwarfs that. And so when you go past it, especially when you get to Chapters 6, 7, 8, and then into 9, it's going to put Chapter 3 to shame. So you're going to have to be able to hold on to your secrets, because if I find out you tell people, that's when I have to come back and haunt you, and I don't want to have to be mean to you. So be careful if you read past that one, which you are welcome to do. It just means that you're going to have to listen while I read some out loud too, because there's some parts coming up that I want to read to you, because I really enjoy the book. So if you do get past it, here's the novel homework. It's not going to be due till Wednesday, which is coming up, but it's going to connect to the quiz on Monday. And so once again, you're going to have the multiple options you can choose from. You can do the extra options for more B points. For those of you who are needing the more B points, you're more than welcome to. If you're not wanting to do the reading today, or you get far enough in the reading, you're more than welcome to work on the homework. Make sure you put it into your notebook. You'll just sort of download it and go with it from there, and that should be absolutely fine with me. So what you have to do today, as far as this Friday goes, you're going to need to get through Chapters 2, 3, and 4. If you slacked yesterday and you're way behind, you definitely have reading to do. If you fall way behind and you're not even through Chapter 4 by the end of the class period, because you're going to have to get to the end of Chapter 4, this is where you're going to have more than welcome to go on my website and use either the audiobook and you can listen to it, or you can use the ebook and you can read it from there. You can't use the paper book. You're going to have to leave them here because I don't have enough copies. Once I get back next week, I do have paper copies that you can check out from me, but with me not being there, it's not going to do any good. You can't check any of them out. So either today, you're either going to read through the end of chapter 4. If you get through the end of chapter 4, you're more than welcome to work on novel homework. If for some reason you get both of those done because you're just some kind of crazy special kid, you're welcome to work on other homework if you want to and make your life a little bit easier. That's absolutely fine with me. Make sure if you want to, you can work on doing your myth test corrections. But that should be about it. I'm looking forward to finally being back and getting a chance to teach you guys again. It's hard to believe we're going like 2.5 weeks without you guys having me in front of the classroom. But that's almost over. I'm almost back in front of you, and it should be good times. Thank you much. Oh, I guess I should finish out with one last picture of me, just for the fun of it, because I don't think I really gave you a good one yesterday. So once again, there's me. Then again, if you remember me from Camp Tecumseh, you probably remember me in a whole different form, but that's okay. I was a little special there, so consider this my view. All right, check you later. I'll leave the screen up so the sub can just pause it on here, and that way you can see the screen if you're trying to remember what you're supposed to work on, where you're supposed to be. Big thing, once again, get to chapter 4 for Monday.